Hi everyone, my name is Zen Honeycutt of Moms Across America, and today we have a very special interview with Crystal Stevens. She is the author of Your Edible Yard. And I know a lot of people right now are focused on the coronavirus and what to do to keep your family safe and healthy. Well, one of the best things that you can do to keep your family safe and healthy is to grow your own food. And most people at least have a small backyard or a small front yard or some space where you can grow some food. And so we are urging you from Moms Across America, because our mission is to educate and empower mothers and others with actions and solutions to create healthy communities. We are urging you, as part of those actions to create healthy communities, to grow your own food and to turn your front yard or backyard into an edible yard. If you're going to be watering something, it might as well feed you and your family, right? So we're going to be talking today with Crystal Stevens, who is coming to us from the Midwest. I'm going to read a little bit of her bio. She lives along the bluffs of the mighty Mississippi River in Godfrey, Illinois, with her husband and 2 children. Crystal Stevens is an author, an artist, an art teacher, a folk herbalist, a regenerative farmer, and a permaculturist. She has written 3 books published by New Society Publishers: Grow, Create, Inspire, Worms at Work, and Your Edible Yard. And she speaks at conferences like at Mother Earth News fairs across the United States. And she's been teaching a resilient living workshop for a whole series for over a decade. She and her husband, Eric, co-founded Flourish, which encompasses a farm, a plant nursery, an apothecary, design services, and educational programming, including permaculture design courses, dozens of workshops, which go out through every season. Stevens co-founded Tend and Flourish School of Botanicals with Alex Quetham. Is that how you say that last name? Quetham. Okay, great. So Crystal, welcome, and we're so glad to talk with you today.
Thank you. That bio makes me really exhausted, Zen.
I know, when I hear my bio, I'm like, whoa, me too, that's too much. We got to cut it short. So yes, you do a lot. You wear a lot of hats. And of course, yes, we mentioned mother, but you said, well, mother of 2 children. That is the biggest job of all. But you're growing your own food, and you have some land though, right? You have like a farm. How big is your farm?
We actually only rent the land. So we're still creating these cultivated ecologies and growing our own food on rented land. So we rent a house and 10 acres, mostly wooded. About 1 acre is open. And so we're growing about an acre's worth.
Okay, great. So you don't have 300 acres or something like that. It is a fairly small plot of land, but you can grow a lot of food on an acre. Now, I've only got a small front yard and a small backyard that I'm converting, but I am using your book, Your Edible Yard, to sort of delve into, how do I do this? I look at the clay-like soil of my backyard that was under black plastic and rocks, right? And the former resident did not want to grow anything. But I do. And so, we pulled that up, and we put down some potting soil. We're going to buy some, I don't know, I'm guessing humic and fulvic acid, but I'm also looking at how to compost more. We have a composter, and we don't have worms yet, but that's my next step, to get worms. But can you tell us, how do we start off? And I know I've read some of your book, but I want to hear from you. How do we start off in making sure that the soil that we plant our plants in is going to be healthy enough to be able to grow healthy plants? How do we get started?
Sure. So if you're worried about contaminants in your soil, you can get your soil tested for heavy metals, and you can do that usually through extension agencies. If you're wanting to test your soil to see what nutrients it's lacking in or which deficiencies it has, there's also specific soil tests that you can get. And
where do you get those?
Usually extension agencies or universities, soil scientists. There's private soil scientists or public soil scientists. And we used to go through Midwest BioAg, but I would go through whatever region you live in.
Okay.
Because they'll have more information about your soil type. So you
So if
can
I were in California, what would I type in to find a soil tester?
soil test and then type in your county or your city or
Oh,
township.
okay, plus county or city. Okay, great. So you find somebody to test your soil. Do they send you a sample kit and you just grab it yourself?
We used to just put it in little bags and label different sections of the field. So if you're just doing your backyard and front yard, you could just take 2 samples labeled backyard, front yard. If you want to get strategic with it, you can do quadrants in your yard. So if you have a larger yard than, say, the size of a soccer field, you would want to get multiple samples. But if you have a small yard, you may only need 1 or 2.
Okay.
But what the soil test tells you, you can get 2 separate ones, one for contaminants and one for deficiencies. And then if you're looking for ways to improve your soil, I always encourage people to build up. So start by just adding soil organic matter. In our city, well, a nearby city, St. Louis, they have St. Louis composting, and you can get a dump truck load full of composted soil, really nice stuff, for about $500. You can also get a small truck bed full, like a pickup truck bed full, for $35 if you go get it yourself. So there are local soil places throughout any region that you can purchase new soil to start with weed-free soil, and then you're contributing to the soil building movement. So it's, unfortunately, there's a number of reasons why it's important to build healthy soil, and one of them is that it takes 500 years for 2.5 centimeters of topsoil to form. And it's a lot of soil agencies across the United States, around the world, have estimated that there's only 60 years of arable land, arable soil left. So our soil is being depleted with deforestation, big monoculture, big ag, erosion and runoff, just weather changes. So it's really important to build healthy soil for the future.
Yeah, so the soil that was in my backyard, they had plastic over it, and rocks, so it wasn't even getting water. And so now I've turned on the water. I put down a whole bunch of potting soil on top. I went out and bought some soil and put that on it because I haven't sourced where I can get a truck full of soil, but I will look into that. Put down potting soil, and then I covered it with some it's like a mesh, but it's a fabric. I forgot what it's like. A
landscape fabric.
yeah, but it's burlap, right? It's like woven. Yeah, so it can breathe, and I'll be able to germinate seeds into it eventually and all that. And then I covered it with mulch. But I want to also put down, I was thinking like humic or fulvic acid. Like, what type of additives would we put in order to sort of wake up the soil? What else would we do with it?
Sure, I would honestly say a nice dosing of red wriggler worms would be the
The
number
worms
one.
would the best thing. Okay, yeah,
We
okay,
could
that's
just keep adding chip mulch. So we're all about the free resources. So we wave down tree trimming trucks and say, hey, can you deliver your truck bed of chip mulch to our location? And that chip mulch is going to break down. And then if we add the red wrigglers, it's just going to keep creating air pockets and water filtration. And it's going to have a network of biopores eventually. So I'm all for free resources. So, getting the chip mulch, getting the fallen leaves, grass clippings, food scraps, compost, instead of going out and spending what could be thousands of dollars on soil remediation, just using the natural materials. And plus we're farmers, so we don't have that big of a budget for expensive outputs.
yeah.
Or inputs.
I had my kids go out with a couple paper bags and fill them up with leaves from a tree nearby that was shedding leaves and nobody was using them, and threw those in our composter, along with our vegetables and all that kind of stuff. So I see them as resources as well. I see these leaves not as something that's just messy, but as a resource. So yeah, there's a lot of free resources, and I love free. Being a mom, we're super frugal, so we need to do that. Okay, so how else? You can buy the worms from your local nursery maybe, or just like look up online where to buy worms?
Go through Uncle Jim's Worm Farm. So it's an online resource that has tried and true red wriggler worms. They're the composting worms. There's some places like on Amazon and other places that you can buy worms, but I'm not sure if they're from trusted sources or not. you might get earthworms from another country that might cause ecosystem damage in your particular region. So red wriggler worms are surface dwellers. They're true composting worms, so it's best to use those, in my opinion.
Okay, great. So you're remediating your, how do you feel about adding fulvic or humic acid?
Yeah, sure, go for it. If people
Okay.
have the budget to add really good nutrient-rich components to their soil, then great, that's wonderful. However, if you want to go on the cheap, just adding chip mulch, fallen leaves, grass clippings, and food waste. We actually compost right into our beds these days. We just make a little furrow in the beds and add the compost right to it.
Yeah, you can add it right in there. Now, you do risk animals sort of going in there and digging it up, right? A little bit. Yeah. But you're not afraid of animals. So in your book, I just want to show the image. You've got this great little like white, is a white plastic tube maybe?
Yeah, so it can be made with you just drill holes in a PVC tube, and there's people who don't like plastic, so you can use like a piece of wood that's just created into a square and drill a bunch of holes. So the goal behind that is that you compost right into that tube into a raised bed, and then you have holes drilled out so the earthworm or the red wriggler worms are going through the holes, fertilizing your garden for you, so you don't have to do it. If
Yeah.
you do use wood, I would sand down each of the holes because you don't want those little lovely worms to get snagged on a splinter or something like that. So you could also use cardboard with holes in it. It will decompose over time.
Yeah.
Essentially, you just want a hole for the compost to go in and the worms to go
Yeah.
through.
Great. And then you've got things like an old like bench type of thing, and you've got an old bathtub.
Bench or an old clawfoot tub that has holes drilled in the bottom. If it's if it's already rusted out in the bottom or
Yeah.
has holes.
So you want to drill holes in the bottom is one of the main
You
points.
want
Yeah. So that the worm droppings can come through, and then you can gather those up and use them in your garden. Right.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, that is that's the liquid gold of soil, right? The worm poop.
Absolutely.
Great. And you've got a picture here too also of bunnies and how to do composting just with sticks. I just love how you have so many free and economical resources in here. So you're taking it, the first thing to do is to take care of the soil, right? And you can compost. Can you talk a little bit about what to compost and what not to compost?
Sure. So for us, we have like a 1-year pile, a 2-year pile, and a 3-year pile. And since we keep backyard chickens, chicken manure is a hot manure. So it has a lot of nitrogen. It takes a while to break down. And so we have that in our 3-year pile, along with a bunch of other organic materials. In our 1-year pile, we have things that will decompose very quickly with the help of worms. So we have our vermicompost pile has eggshells, coffee grounds, food scraps, little paper towel rolls, so they have and toilet paper rolls, so they have little air pockets to go through. And then what we don't put in our worm bin is hot peppers, onions, or citrus. They're the last things to remain whole in a vermicompost bin, so we just assume that they don't care for those things. And then, nothing too acidic for the worms. And you want to maintain the temperature and the bedding, make sure they have adequate bedding, food, and then make sure it's not too hot for them.
And what do you mean by bedding?
So bedding is like a torn up newspaper. You could put straw, leaf litter, just lots of, we try to do equal amounts of green and brown materials. So the brown materials being the straw or the fallen leaves, little tubes of, toilet paper rolls. And then the green materials are going to be really, really rich in all those other components, and they're going to be like the food scraps.
Great. Yeah. So you want to save your food scraps, folks. They are the fertilizer, the fuel for your energy. I mean, for your soil, right? To create the microbes and have the energy and nutrients that are needed to grow your food. And this is all part of a system that you like to talk about, cultivated ecologies, right? A whole system. Can you talk a little about how these worms and the nutrients in the soil support this whole ecology? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I just like to encourage people to create cultivated ecologies in their own front yards and backyards. And what I mean by that is that we have destroyed so many, we as a human race have destroyed so many ecosystems, whether it be prairies, woodlands, glades, savannas. All of these ecosystems are vital to the existence of pollinators and wildlife and even plant species. So, and they're also vital to human health because a lot of these ecosystems help to filter water, they create clean air, and they help build healthy soils. And because of deforestation and because of concrete everything, there's the ecosystems are dwindling very quickly. So for me, one of my goals is to encourage as many people as possible to create these little micro ecologies in your own backyard to attract pollinators, to attract beneficial wildlife, even to provide homes for wildlife you may not want in your yard, but we are in their home. So a lot of people don't want squirrels in their garden, but squirrels serve vital roles in the ecosystem, just like all animals do. And it's just important for us to create these little pockets of micro wilderness for all of these species and have
Okay, so tell us, what would a little micro wilderness look like in your backyard?
Sure. So we've done a lot of work with planting little food forests here and there. And so what I mean by a food forest is that you have a big canopy, you model it like a forest, and you just replace regular plants with food producing plants. So a canopy tree layer, which is like fruit trees, apples, Asian pears, peaches. And then you have low growing fruit trees like juneberries or elderberries. And then you have shrub layer, which could be like aronia, which is a really wonderful antioxidant rich, immune boosting superfruit that grows really well across the United States. And that could be in the shrub layer. And then there's the herbaceous layer, which is like herbs and pollinator attractors and dynamic accumulators and medicinal herbs and nitrogen fixing plants. And then you have a ground cover layer, which is a red clover, or it could be strawberries or some sort of a nitrogen rich ground cover. And then by doing that, you're allowing that the different roots to go down at different depths, promoting microbes, promoting the soil health. And it's just a really wonderful way to get people to plant multiple biodiverse species in their backyards.
And are most of those things that you just mentioned perennials? Like, will they come up every year?
Yes, absolutely. So you can integrate annuals into your system. So if you want to grow tomatoes, you could absolutely put it nearby. Of course, the food forest eventually will be very shaded, but as everything grows up together, they kind of get acclimated to your environment.
Oh, great. Yes. And shade comes at different times of the year. So different things are going to grow at other times. I was told, in Southern California, that the leafy greens are okay with some shade at certain times, right? And while the fig tree is not leafy, right, you can be growing your greens. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there's companion planting. I learned recently that tomatoes don't grow well next to cucumbers. They don't
Right.
like those. All right, can you tell us some examples of some other companion planting?
Sure. So carrots actually, there's a book called Carrots Love Tomatoes. And so planting carrots at the base of the tomato plant helps to
Oh,
shade out the carrots as they're getting established, so they don't bolt. And then the roots kind of go deep down and allow filtration to happen in the soil. Some other examples are marigolds. Planting marigolds in your garden helps to attract beneficials.
beneficial like bees.
Beneficial insects, bees, honeybees.
Okay. Yeah, bees and bugs. Okay, and bees that are beneficial. And we've heard about the three sisters. A lot of people have heard about the three sisters. Can you say what those are?
Absolutely. So it's a corn, beans, and squash. Corn grows up really tall, and then the beans can vine up the pole beans can vine up the corn, and it provides a natural trellis. And then the squash kind of spreads out, and it prevents raccoons from coming to eat the corn. A lot of indigenous cultures planted Three Sisters gardens to. They were nomadic, so they would go out and hunt in forest, forage and gather. And then when they came back, their Three Sisters garden was ready to harvest.
Wow, I didn't know that it was to keep the raccoons away. I thought it was ground cover, just for not to prevent weeds and stuff.
That
But right,
too.
yeah, raccoons they wouldn't like to walk on squash because it's prickly, right? It's got those little prickers. That is brilliant. I didn't know that. Great. Well, so also microecologies, micro cultivated ecologies and micro ecosystems, they might have little bee hotels or something, right? Insect like homes. Could you talk a little bit about how would you cultivate to have beneficial insects?
Sure. So, you could build a little bee hotel out of bamboo rods and different things, or you could just leave your garden wild when it comes to winter. I'm not sure if California really has a true winter or not, but
Not much.
during the off season, during the season when there's not much growing in the garden, we just leave it kind of wild, and it doesn't necessarily look beautiful from the roadside at that point, but it allows pollinators to get in there and get the last remaining nectar or just find protection from the elements.
Great. Yeah. So you can also check out her book for the purpose of finding out how to make your own tinctures and different, herbal tea blends and tinctures and herbs. Can you talk a little bit about growing herbs and making your own remedies with them?
Sure. So my herbal hero is Rosemary Gladstar, who's
Mhm.
going through some really hard times right now. So please keep her in your thoughts.
Yes.
You can read about it on her site, but she has been my herbal mentor and phenomenal person, just absolutely amazing woman and such a gift to this world. She teaches a lot about whole plant tinctures such as echinacea. So she I took a class of hers 15 years ago, and she was pointing out that echinacea is one of her favorites because you can tincture the entire plant from the leaves, flowers, stems, the petals, and the roots. And all of that can be tinctured into a jar. So you would harvest one plant and then cut it all up and put it in a jar with alcohol, or you can use apple cider vinegar. And then you let that medicine sit for about 1 month. That's optimal time. And the alcohol that you use would in optimal conditions be organic alcohol, of course, but you let it sit for 4 weeks, shaking it daily and making sure that that medicine is being extracted, and then you would strain the plant matter, and then you have this liquid of herbal extract tincture ready to go. So then you can transfer that to little liquid extract bottles and take 30 drops on your tongue or in water daily or twice a day for immune boosting. So
Wow.
echinacea it's great for cold and flu season, great for boosting the body's natural immune defense, and it's also one of my favorite herbs. But there's so many medicinal herbs, and they're different in the Midwest than they are in California. I don't know a lot of the California medicinals.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that if our great grandmothers didn't know about medicinal herbs, the settlers who came to this country or any other country would not have survived, and the indigenous people would not have survived the harsh winters, the any types of diseases. It was predominantly the great great grandmothers that knew how to grow herbs and make tinctures or teas or salves, all of that with herbs and plants. So if you are concerned about your family's immunity, one of the best things that you can do is to grow herbs and to learn about how to take care of your family naturally. And that's within your power. And you don't have to wait for a doctor office visit, 2 months away. I was told when my son needed to see a specialist, we'd have to wait 2.5 months. That just doesn't work for a mother. Your worry will, like, your brain will explode during that amount of time. So you've got to know how to, I mean, of course we go to Western medical doctors when we need to, right? But in order to take care of our family on a daily basis, it really is beneficial, brings you peace of mind and joy and fulfillment to learn how to take care of your family. Recently, with with this whole coronavirus thing going around, I got sick, and well, I don't know, I don't think I got that. I think I just got a regular cold or cough or whatever. But in your book, you show how some people call certain plants weeds, and you actually call them herbs. And one of them is my favorite, is greater plantain, and you have it, there's a picture here somewhere in the book and I'm trying to find it. But it is a very innocuous looking, it looks just like a weed, and it's like a kind of has rabbit ear shape. And I'm going to find it in a second. And it grows in almost everywhere across the country. And well, anyway, if you're watching this, just look it up. What?
Does it grow in California?
Oh yeah, we have it in here it is. We had it in the backyard of my old place where I lived. And so when I got sick, my husband went to, or not just in the backyard, in the park. So this one right here, you will see that growing everywhere in parks and along the sidewalks and things like that. So my husband went and picked one and brought one back actually to grow in our potted plants, you know, in a pot, because we want to have that available. And it's an antiviral, it's astringent, and it has anti-inflammatory processes and antibacterial, antimicrobial. And within an hour, I began to feel better. And
wow,
so,
that's remarkable.
yeah, it can really be beneficial for viruses and bacterias and things like that. And you just crush it up and make a tea out of it. And what I learned about this from another herbalist is this greater plantain is that nurses during the Civil War and way back, you know, war times when surgery was not readily available and they had long waits to get medical care, the nurses would crush it up. They would just pick it out of the fields when the men were fallen, you know, and crush it up and put it on the wound. And that would prevent the bacteria from growing, and it would prevent them from having to have that limb chopped off. You know, if they didn't do that, they often noticed that bacteria would grow and, you know, could become gangrenous and all that, and they would lose the limb. So this herb can save limbs, it can save lives, it can get rid of viruses, and being able to grow not just food in your yard, but being knowledgeable about what the weeds are, right, can be very beneficial for your family.
There are a few things I would mention about plantain. So, you know, we wouldn't want to encourage anyone to go out and pick it where it's been sprayed with toxic chemicals, pesticides,
yes,
herbicides. Make sure that you do it in an area that is safe, that there's no like toxic waste left over from 20 years ago. And then, you know, with the plantain, it's really wonderful to just grow it yourself in your own backyard. Like you did, take the plant and create your own cultivated ecology. So dandelion is another one. Dandelion root is all over the United States and Europe and so many other countries. And dandelion is one of the most medicinal plants on the planet. And so many people spray Roundup on it and spray it with herbicides, and it is a remarkable healing plant. So the roots are very antioxidant. They're really super great for people who are going through cancer. They're antioxidant, so they are helping to shrink tumors. There's some research being done in Europe that shows shrinking tumors, just the roots, but the flowers are edible. The leaves are really rich in vitamin C, vitamin A, potassium. So eating the greens and the leaves and the flowers, and then drinking tea from the roots also. Ralph Waldo Emerson said a weed is just a plant whose virtues have not yet been discovered. And so really holding honor to these weeds. And it's just really important to be in control of our own health. And one of the first ways to do that, as you mentioned, is to really focus on food as medicine, and then medicinal herbs as medicine.
absolutely. And one other benefit for growing your own food, I realized when I watched The Truth About Cancer, they were interviewing people in different countries. And in Japan, one of the doctors there said that we used to just pick fruit off a tree and eat it right away. Now our fruit is coming from a whole other country. It's been through a ship. Maybe that ship has been fogged with pesticides, you know, was picked a month early and then it was allowed to ripen, you know, so it's not really ripening the way it should. And in a freshly picked fruit, there are nutrients that actually fight cancer. And so most people now are not eating freshly picked fruit. And so they're not getting those essential, you know, nutrients that would normally help them to fight cancer. So having an apple tree in your own yard, a berry tree in your own yard, you're getting it as fresh as possible, right?
The best time to plant a fruit tree was 20 years ago.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well,
we did plant some, but they're not on a property that we own. So plant some fruit trees, everyone.
yes, and plant now, and it may take a couple of years for some of them to grow. And we just planted avocado tree. We know it's going to take another 4 years to actually get some fruit out of that. But you know what? We moved here 20 years ago. If we had done this 20 years ago, we would have gobs of avocados right now. So it's time to, we don't want to wait anymore, and let's get going on this. I also want to mention your book, and then we're going to wrap up, is that you also have some very beautiful recipes. You talk about using edible flowers. You have tons of recipes in the back of the book. And you also really celebrate community, which I love. You have interviews and images from different farmers and backyard gardeners from all across the country.
Right there is Ronald Jones and Ra Ward, and they're both St. Louis residents. They already have food forests growing in their communities, and they've been doing this work for almost a decade. And it's really just a remarkable thing to see all the biodiversity in their backyards.
Isn't it exciting? Isn't it just exciting to see somebody's garden, because you know how much love and time and attention that they're putting into it, and everybody wants to share it, don't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so great. And
backyard tour in St. Louis, put on by Terry Winkleman. She organizes the Sustainable Backyard Network and the Sustainable Backyard Tour. So it's a showcase of different wonderful, amazing backyards throughout the region. So that'd be a good model to take anywhere.
yeah, wonderful. Well, your book is Your Edible Garden. Oh wait, I have to pin the video on me again now. This is Crystal Stevens' book, Your Edible Garden. It is chock full with beautiful photographs, delightful drawings, and all kinds of, like I don't know about demonstrations, but plans, everything about insects. And I just love how much you put in here about gardening organic, and you do put the information in there about pesticides and glyphosate and all of the things that you want to avoid. It's chock full of information about soil health, and I love design for abundance. I love that. And just easy tips that are, for the frugal minded person. They really are for inexpensive ways to go about it, building the soil. And it has me feel like, gee, this is not so scary. I can do this. And it'll take time. It's a process. That's the one thing that I have really been getting out of this, is that you can't just say, okay, let's just plant everything right now and then just have a gorgeous garden like instantly, right? No, it takes time. It takes time for these trees to grow. It takes time for the bushes to grow. It takes time for the soil quality to improve. It takes time for the worms, which I'm going to get, to eat their way through stuff and create worm poop. But it's just so luscious and gorgeous. All of the images in your book, I just absolutely love them. So any last words for people on how to get started gardening before we go?
Oh, just start small, like you mentioned. Go with non-GMO seeds. You can get non-GMO seeds from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, from yes, Jer and Emily Gettle. You can get non-GMO seeds from Johnny's Selected Seeds, Seeds of Change, Southern Exposure Seeds, strictly medicinals. It's a tongue twister. But really just knowing our trusted sources of plants, so you can get plants from your local farmers, and just start small. Start small. You can always grow your garden. Start with one raised bed, see how many plants you can fit in there, and grow what you love. You wouldn't want to order a pound of radish seeds if you don't like radishes, right?
Right,
So,
yes.
Also, congratulations on your book as well. I love that you're putting this information out there, and I really admire you. And I remember back several years ago when you and I sat at Cafe Gratitude and had a most amazing conversation and ate a really delicious dinner together. That was really wonderful.
Yes, we did. And it was before my book. And this is my book for people this is Unstoppable. Yep. Transforming Sickness and Struggle into Triumph, Empowerment, and a Celebration of Community. And it's just, this is what it's all about, is community. And that's why I love gardening. you inevitably will share it. You will have too many of some type of your crop. You know, my neighbor has a small lemon tree. I mean, this thing is probably less than 4 feet high. It's very small lemon tree, but it must have produced 100 something lemons. I mean, maybe even 200. It was laden with lemons this year. And so she must have given us 40 lemons. I don't know. We juiced them. You know, we froze the lemon juice. We made lemon cookies and lemon everything. And so inevitably, once you start growing your own food, you're going to share and you're going to connect with your neighbors and you're going to celebrate your community through food. And that will have you feeling safe and secure. It will have you feel connected with your community. And in this day and age, when there's fake news all over the place, there's fear and you know, people not speaking to each other very nicely on social media. You know, that's not the way you would speak to your neighbor. I really challenge you, speak to people on social media the way you would talk to your neighbor if you were looking at them eye to eye, right? You know, let's be nice to each other. But when you get out and get to know your neighbors because you want to share your cucumbers or your, you know, abundant lemons or whatever, you're getting connected with them. And that has you feel safer, you know, again, as I mentioned before, more secure, and happier, connected, healthier. Really, people who are isolated and alone are not as healthy. You know, you want to get out there and be connected. So we at Moms Across America love books like this. This is a part of fulfilling our mission, is to create healthy communities and offer solutions and actions that you can take to create healthy communities. And a book like this supports you in doing that because it makes it clear and understandable, exciting, inspiring, and gives you plenty of tips that you can use to create a edible yard to feed your family and your community and celebrate with them. So I want to say thank you very much to Crystal for being on with us. And we hope that you'll check out her book. It's available on Amazon, right, Crystal?
Yeah, and the website, which is growcreateinspire.com. And I'd love to share one more story before we wrap up, if
Sure.
you have.
Yep.
So my son was born with, and I believe we had this conversation at Cafe Gratitude. My son was born with congenital diaphragmatic hernia, where all of his organs were above his diaphragm from birth. He's been through 27 surgeries, and he also was on life support for 3 years. So tracheostomy, he was on a ventilator. He was essentially on life support for 3 solid years, feeding tube. The doctors said he wouldn't be able to talk or eat on his own. And he has overcome so much. And what I did when I was diagnosed with this in utero, when he was diagnosed with this in utero, I started eating all organic. I started juicing. I really just changed. I was already vegetarian and eating healthy, but I just made better health decisions overall. And so I was, when he was born, very, very sick. And I was doing all this diet change stuff and really focusing on organic. And I was nursing, but I wasn't able to nurse him directly. So I was pumping and taking that breast milk to the hospital every single day for nearly 2 years. And the good breast milk that he got with the organic produce and the medicinal herbs. And I was drinking lots of echinacea, elderberry, and mullein tea to help repair his lung tissues that were damaged from the diaphragmatic hernia and to help build his immune system. So I took that breast milk to the hospital every day. And then when he slowly started to get better. And then when he started to eat, I just took what we ate, all organic, put it in the food processor, and then fed him that. And he eats like a champ now. He has he's climbing trees. You can see pictures on the website of him. He's totally healthy, no vent, no trach. He's running and playing soccer and basketball, and he's just super healthy because of organic food, because I just chose to really instill the organic diet in him. And so for moms, it's important to connect through stories and to have those really anecdotal ways of connecting. And for any moms out there, I had a woman reach out to me from Romania, and her child had a diaphragmatic hernia, and she saw the hashtag that I posted and his success story, and she reached out And unfortunately, they're now in Italy in a hospital, so they're kind of quarantined. They don't have the virus, but it's just, social media has this powerful tool to connect us. And so she reached out wanting some, words of encouragement on how to get through that. And there's a lot of moms going through that with their babies. So and I gave her all that information, just eat healthy, do the breast milk, do the pumping, and feeding the babies the good organic. So sorry, that was a lot longer than I expected, but I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you for ending with us with a healing story. And I want to point out that the organic food allows the body to heal itself, right? It gives it the nutrients and the vitamins that are needed, but it also allows it to heal itself. When you are inundating the body with toxic chemicals that are in conventional foods, you're disrupting the body's ability to heal itself. So really, we need to trust and have faith in our body's ability to heal and to support it by doing so with fresh, local, whole foods, organically grown, as much as possible, that it will also be regenerating the soil. We didn't touch upon that, but regenerating the soil, helping to reduce climate change, supporting connections in our community, and being healthier all around. So thank you very much, Crystal. I appreciate that. And boy, your son sure is lucky that he has you for a mother.
Oh,
It's a
thank
beautiful
you.
story. Yeah, thank you.
Your stories as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, take care, everybody. And please pick up your copy of Your Edible Yard by Crystal Stevens on Amazon or on her website. And say the website again one more time.
GrowCreateInspire.com.
GrowCreateInspire.com. And thank you very much for watching today.
Thank you.